going to begin now. Welcome to the IGCSE Journey live session. There are we have got 4 speakers today. I'm not sure where our other one went. However, we'll have him later on, I believe. So for our session overview today, we are going to have our introduction. We're just going to introduce ourselves as the hosts and subjects. So we're talking about the subjects, what you should choose, and why. And then, of course, we're going to be talking about the the exam and how it compares to the mock exams. We'll be going through some study tips as well, both in scheduling and in planning, and some extra tips to help you with preparation for your exam. We're going to talk about what happens during the exam as well, and finally, we're going to be talking about our IGCSE, our own personal experiences with IGCSE. Now, after this session, we're going to be opening up chat just to talk about, just so you guys can, if you guys have any questions after our talk today, you're free to say it, you're free to ask it here. And yeah, so we shall begin, and we shall introduce ourselves. So we'll begin with Vela.
Hi everyone, good evening for me, and I don't know what time it is probably for you guys, but I'm Veda and I'm 16. I took the subjects EFL, Maths, AdMaths, Biochem, Physics, Business, ICT, and Geography, and I think most of you might know me from the notes I published. But yeah, that's all for my introduction. Passing it on to Vansh.
Hello everyone, my name is Vansh. I took 8 subjects for my GCSEs, which I gave in Feb-March this year. Physics, Chemistry, Biology, Mathematics, English, Economics, CS, and French. And I hope we'll be having a nice session here. Thank you. Passing on to Chu.
Hey guys, I'm Atib Sahil, and I just completed my 3 years of O levels, and I'm also one of your hosts now, and I'm really excited for today's session.
Hey, so I am Chu. I did first language English literature, French, computer science, biology, maths, and history for my IGCSEs. I hope that today is going to be quite insightful for you guys, and that you take a lot from our presentation today. Now, we shall begin with our first part of our session, which is the subjects, and what to choose when you're choosing your subjects for IGCSE and why. So I'll send this off to Veda first.
Yes, so when you're choosing your subjects, it's best to focus on subjects that personally interest you, of course, and will benefit you. So if you have a career path in mind, maybe you choose to become a doctor or something of that sort, of course, you're going to take the science subjects, the math subjects, basically what benefits you. And if you feel like subjects like arts, geography, or history personally interest you, it's better to go with those subjects. And if you force yourself to take a subject that you don't particularly find interesting, for example, you know you're not the type of person to find joy in doing maths, then taking subjects like AdMaths is probably not going to give you the best outcome, because no matter what, you're going to be spending almost 2 years like going deep into the subject. You might as well choose something that interests you and that you're going to enjoy doing. And it's better off that you choose something you personally like.
Right. So next we're going to talk about dropping subjects. I personally did drop some subjects, and you should make sure to not carelessly select your subjects, and make sure that you want to do this for the next 2 years, because it does basically build up what you're going to be doing for AS or A levels, IB, whatever you're going to be doing. But make sure that you choose the right subjects for you, and that you try your best not to choose subjects that you might considerably drop later on, because that can waste a lot of time and it may also very disadvantageous, because you know um uh, because it'll take a lot of time for you to catch up if you're going to be getting choosing another subject to take after you drop those subjects. Um, Also, this is
Okay, adding to this, it's really important to research about all your subjects before you're taking them, especially when you're starting your IGCSEs. So the syllabus document is a huge guide, the learner's guide. They tell you what you're going to be learning in the subject. Also, if you're planning ahead, planning really ahead, as in universities, you might want to check the subjects that they have for the courses that you want, so that you can pick the best subjects that will help you get in, and not pick any that will waste your time, and then you might have to drop them. Yeah.
so then doing a few subjects and scoring well is a lot better than doing a lot more subjects and scoring average. So make sure you have a certain amount of subjects that you want to take that are not too convoluted, and that you don't try to spam get all every single subject to take. Take the ones that you believe you're able to handle both mentally and physically, because it is when you're first being thrown at the deep end, it can get quite hectic. So don't do that to yourself.
And also, taking a wide assortment of subjects can help you figure out what to do after your IGCSEs end. Because if you're someone that doesn't have a career path in mind, then it's better off taking like subjects of different varieties, like a few sciences and then a few art path subjects. Such just mix up a lot of subjects and take a wide assortment, so that if you choose to change your career path, it kind of helps you out in the future, and you can find what interests you in the way.
So, preparation for both your exam and the mock exam is just as optimal. Try to make sure that the mock exam, when you prepare for the mock exam, wait, if you know what your mock exam is, it's the exam that your school provides for you, as you pretend or you mock the actual exam that you're going to be taking, just to prepare you and show you what it will be like for the first time. Now, you should try your best to, when you prepare for your mocks, do it the same as you would if it were the actual exam, because not only does your mock exam help you, it not only does it help you and be not only is it wake up call, right, but it also helps not only is it a wake up call, but it helps with your predicted grades and stuff like that. So make sure that you prioritize preparing for both equally.
Okay, another thing, when you're doing your mocks, the results that come out, they usually have very little correlation with the results you're actually gonna get. Because sometimes you might be able to prepare better after your mocks, or sometimes, like in my case, I get overconfident, and then I perform much worse in the actual exams than in the mocks. Maybe because of pressure, maybe because you're in exam conditions that you've not been in before. But that's what schools are there to prepare you about for mocks.
So make sure to also keep in mind about the Christofsen law. So this law basically states that, or suggests that, performance increases with mental arousal or stress, but only up to a point. Now, what this means is that the more stressed you are, or at least when you have some sort of stress, that's a good thing. It's okay to be stressed, it's okay to be anxious right before your exam and during your exam, because this quite literally suggests that you will be able to do a lot better, because your brain is quite, I'm not going to explain the science on it, but basically all it is don't worry too much about the stress you're going to get and the anxiety you're going to get during the exam. It's completely normal for every student, and in fact, it's a lot more beneficial for you.
And don't forget that the mocks might feel light as compared to the real Cambridge exams. And it can also be the other way around because schools are made to like over prepare you. So if you had a school like mine was very light with our exams. They used to tell us what papers we used to have before the mocks and stuff like that used to happen. So we were never really like harshly prepared for the Cambridge exams and we never knew what to expect. And if your school is anything like a really strict school, then you might get like the hardest papers and the hardest questions. And when you're doing the Cambridge exams, it might feel light. So, of course, if you did bad or really good in your mock exams, then don't really think it's going to reflect onto your exams. And just know that there's time to improve or just further make better of your skills. All right, so some study tips and scheduling and planning tips. So you need to make sure that whenever you're studying, you need to understand the chapter like content. You need to understand the chapter content thoroughly and also have like a full understanding on the chapter and make sure it's really stuck into your brain. It's not always about memorizing because there's only like so much you can memorize in a topic. If you don't understand it, keep trying, keep watching videos. We have tons of resources in our r/IGCSE resource repository that you can use to your dispose. And also make sure to practice topical questions as soon as you're done with the chapters because saving these practice questions to the end is really gonna like give you a lot less time and a lot less variety of questions you will be able to see. But doing topical questions will like expose you to the questions way before you actually start doing past year papers. And if you have any problems with like focus, and also if you're not the type of person to stay focused for a really long time while studying, then you might want to check the Pomodoro technique, which is basically you study for a timing about like 25 minutes or 45 minutes and you take a small break and then you start studying again. So it's going to be a period of studying and then a small break and then studying and so on, as for as long as you wish to study. And also remember to avoid spending too much time on making aesthetic notes, which you probably will not be using towards the end, because sometimes it's more about what helps you rather than what looks pretty. And of course, you don't really have to create notes with, so that when you're going through it at the end, it helps you out.
When you're covering your notes and you're finishing your syllabus in school, using the syllabus as a checklist is a gold trick to make sure you're covering everything that's possible to come in the exam. That's personally what I did. I used the syllabus as a checklist, ticked out points as I finished them in my own notes, and as the school finished them as two separate checklists, which was really useful. It also told me that the book missed out on a few points in my case for the exam. Relating to space physics and computer science. So I found out that those points were missing. I was able to cover them in time. It is really going to help you, trust me.
Consistency is key. As you complete your IGCSEs and O levels, you're going to realize that some tasks are harder than others. And to accomplish the hard tasks, you can create a routine for yourself. Like how I did. You could set a specific time throughout the day to focus on this subject, that subject. This is often useful when you have like a 9 or 10 IGCSE subjects. It's very useful when you have a long list of subjects and you want to cover each topic throughout that subject. You could give a topic a certain time every day, and you can continue that routine, that time for that topic every week or every 2 weeks. This way, you won't forget the topic at the end, and you will continue to memorize more on it, because topics sometimes have more subtopics inside of them, and it's a lot of information to memorize at once. So this routine could help you understand that topic. And remember, humans aren't perfect. All right, if sometimes you miss out on topics, you can always
Okay, moving on. It's really important to create a timetable, a schedule that tells you when you have to cover every topic of every subject when you're revising or when you're doing your school course at those times. So this is one thing, creating a timetable that most people want to do but don't actually get to doing, and they actually miss out on a lot of preparation. One thing that you miss out on when you don't create a timetable is that when you're doing past papers, for example, you might do papers of some subjects more than others because it's usually totally random. So you might end up getting, for example, really good scores for sciences if you prepared those well, and then bad for English, as I did, because I personally missed out on doing less English papers because I personally didn't have a timetable that was so good. So yeah, it's pretty important. And the notes that you create for yourself personally work for you best. So when you're doing last minute revision, literally the hour before the exam in my case, go through all your notes, check mark stuff that you know, memorize stuff that you don't, use it as the guide when you're done with the syllabus. Okay, moving on.
Right. One more thing. Bunch, can you go back for a second? Right. One more thing I wanted to add is that you can find a learner's guide for most of the subjects that you're about to take. And this learner's guide basically has a checklist at the end. It gives you like a small space to add some notes with the syllabus points on the side. You can checklist those points on the syllabus that you already know. I might link like the learner's guide folder somewhere in the chat later on. But this is really helpful towards the end if you want to check through if you learned all the syllabus and you're fully clear with it. Yeah, you can go to the next slide now.
Right, so for my part, I'm going to be talking about something more specific to humanities, since a lot of the times we take real-time notes, especially for history, for example. Now, you have to really learn how to take real-time notes. An example of this is really, instead of writing long sentences for your notes, try to make a system, a kind of like symbol system, or make sure to abbreviate and don't use certain words like there or but. You know, to which will waste your time while you're taking real time notes, because that will also prepare you for uni. I know we're not going to be talking about that right now, but just a little heads up. Taking real time notes is really, really important. Anyway, and then you can also do some body doubling and have an accountability partner. So what body doubling is when you have somebody else present with you as you try to study. Now that is it helps with usually with people with ADHD. I have ADHD, for example, so it helped a lot with me. I had someone present in the room with me, and which helped make me realize, oh, this is a good time for me to study right now. It gives you that sort of pressure, and gives you that sort of I wouldn't say guilt, I wouldn't say that, but it makes you accountable and puts you in a way puts you in the zone, so you focus more. And also, having an accountability partner is important. Someone who's going to check up on you, making sure that you are doing, you're not being distracted, you're doing your part, you're doing your work properly, and that it is also both as optimal and both as optimal and ideal for you as well. Finally, the Feynman technique, which is also something that helps me a lot. The Feynman technique is basically um, where you are teaching someone else the content that you're trying to learn or you're trying to revise. So, for example, I used the Feynman technique a lot with my pets when I was learning about the road to World War II for history. Um, and it was basically, yeah, it helped a lot with memorization. Instead of just having my nose in books for the longest of times, and rather just pure memorization, it was great to use. It was great to just teach this, the unit and the chapters merely to something. It doesn't have to be a human. It can literally be your computer screen, as if you're doing a YouTube video. Whatever pleases you, whatever helps you out. Yeah, we can go on to the next slide now.
Okay, so during your exam, there are quite a few things that you should keep in mind. For MCQ papers, once you're done solving all of them, you should spend the remaining time going over your answer choices and rechecking whether your answers are actually correct and they're within the bounds of what you would call sane. Uh, in some cases, the answers may be too high or too low, especially when you're coming to sciences. So you want to find out whether that's actually right or whether you're doing something wrong. Yeah. If you see a question that you don't know about, skip it, circle it, come back to it at the end. That saves a lot of time and you're able to score most of the marks that you can. And then you come back to those you don't because they would actually take a lot of your time. And thus, you do pretty good time management. You don't miss out on stuff.
All right, so this is a really common method. It's called, maybe you do this method, but you just don't know the name of it. But basically, it's called the cycling or the phase method. Basically, what it consists of is that it's a method where you have three phases that you do your question paper in. The first phase is called the initial overview, where you spend a few minutes skimming the entire paper to identify which questions you particularly find easy and which questions you think are going to be difficult. And then the next phase of this method is that you do your first cycle, which is you use half the exam's time to answer all the easiest questions that you think you know confidently what the answer is, and then you use the second cycle to use the remaining time to tackle all the harder questions and review your answers. And one more thing is that make sure you leave the questions that you do not understand and then go until the end of the paper before coming back to them, because if you're particularly stuck on something or you don't know it, it's best not to spend all of your time figuring it out and then missing out on all the easy marks that you could have gotten. So always leave those difficult questions and come back to them at the end. Oh, okay. So here's my personal experience of IGCSE. So my school was a really like chill school that didn't really care about IGCSE that much. So at the start of our like IGCSE, we were like really new to everything, and the jump from ninth grade to like IGCSE was really big because I think during my first semester I got like an E in chemistry, and my grades were like really down there. It was really terrible and humbling experience. So I think that you shouldn't expect that if you go into an exam with like just knowledge of what you learned in class and just a few questions here and there, I don't think you're gonna get like marks you expect from yourself, and it's not gonna be just the same old easy classes anymore. It's gonna have like a little kick to it. So you should really focus up for IGCSE, but I think you can still take like the first year of IGCSE a bit lightly. You shouldn't burn yourself out too much and like start doing papers, doing everything on the first year. And then when it comes closer to your exams, you're going to be really burnt out. You're going to not have motive to do anything else. And it's going to be really like bumming towards the end to just like lose all that motive right before your exams. So take it slow, easy, and keep it consistent. Make sure you don't like do too little work or too much work, and just take it easy, you know?
Thank you, Veda. Next up is me. So, in my personal experience, I was particularly lucky because I had a school with fantastic teachers and great friends who helped me out a lot when I was preparing for IGCSEs. We finished the syllabus quite early, so we were giving exams in February, but we finished around October. So we had like 4 months for past papers. We did 3 months of past papers in school and 1 month at home ourselves, which was really useful. Next up, I discovered the server through a friend, and it was like particularly useful when I had doubts and when my friends weren't there for me. I would regularly post questions here that I didn't know the answer to or I thought something was wrong, and you guys helped me out. I'm really grateful for that. Uh, Next up in this server, I attended a lot of voice chats where we did papers together. I made a lot of friends there. We actually did 11 papers in a day because we were so focused on the voice chat with all our friends. I also got a gauge of how good I actually am, which was I thought I was much better than I actually ended up being. So getting a real gauge was a nice eye opener. Uh, in addition, I also made my own notes when I had finished with the course in the school. That was around October. So I started making notes mid November. And I think many of you probably know I published them here on the server and at other places, which was also really useful because I got a lot of feedback on things I missed and things I could have made better notes on, which saved me in exams quite a few times. I also used the syllabus document as a checklist, something we've already covered in the slides, so I didn't miss out everything. It also helped me organize, get my stuff together because before that I was so out of focus, personally talking. It also highlighted stuff that I missed studying in school. For example, when I was on vacations after the holidays were over. Things I missed out though that I could have done better. There are a lot of them. I didn't practice English enough, personally speaking, because I didn't have a good timetable, and I did sciences more because I was better than them, which is actually a really bad strategy. Thinking about it again. One more thing I missed out on was reading the examiner reports, which was really important, but I used to do it very few times. It tells you where most children go wrong when they're giving their exams, points that they miss out, points that they speak on, overwrite on, and yeah, that was a pretty huge realization after I finished my IGCSEs that I should have focused on them much more than I actually did. That's all from my side. Moving on to Asib.
I
As
think,
Asib's not here right now, I think we'll move on to Chu.
yeah.
Right. So, IGCSE for me was probably one of the most stressful things in my life. I'll be honest, because it was such a big jump from what I was so used to prior to prior to what's it called? Prior to uh, prior to secondary, right? Um, so IGCSE for me was quite very hectic. I'd say. I I was, everything was pretty new to me, and it didn't make really much sense, and I was kind of very anxious about everything because I have really bad anxiety issues, so it was quite hard on me. However, I'd say from the get go that it wasn't as bad as I thought it would be at first, because uh, I always take things as quite heavy, and things as such as having like 7 subjects freaked me out a bit, especially when, even if though we actually had quite a lot of time to prepare for it. I'll be honest. I will say that I didn't. In hindsight, I didn't actually prepare too well for my GCSEs, because I did take it a lot lightly, and I focused more on the subjects that I particularly thought that mattered to me, um, which is I prioritized them more than subjects that I didn't particularly do good at, because I was always told to focus on my strengths more than my weaknesses. It doesn't always apply to everyone, but it helped me a lot, really. So I focus more on the humanities subjects: English, English literature, history, French. All the ones not non-related to STEM, and actually did help me a lot. And I actually had I didn't I honestly didn't know this sub existed until like right afterwards. But it's nice to know that there are actually a lot of resources for IGCSE specifically. And what I did remember from first taking the exam is that, uh, like for exam prep, for example, um, you have to, what I didn't do, which is what I wish I did, was prioritize my health, because I remember, even though there was a point in time where I just crammed for my IGs, and I literally neglected my health, which didn't help with great performance for some of my exams. So you have to realize that you shouldn't take your education over your health, because without your health you're not going to be able to perform really well. So make sure, I wish I did this, but I wish I had like a good night's rest day before my exam, not worry about it. Also have a really good, source of protein and, carbs and anything that will give you enough energy to you remember everything throughout, right before your exam, or as soon as you set your exam, and as well as, waking up early, so at least my brain, could prepare. Because even though I never personally, I never did any all-nighters. I really don't recommend all-nighters ever. Please don't do all-nighters. Don't stay up. Don't sleep late right before your exam. It does not help. Cramming last minute is not helpful at all. Like, trust me when I say that. Yeah. So overall, it is, it's best not to take it, take it to heart. Like, if you do pretty bad, if you think you do pretty bad in your mock or in your actual exam, if you think you did that, or you get your grades and you think you did pretty poorly, just know it's not the end of the world. You have a lot ahead of you, and this is just part of the experience of preparing yourself for what is greater and what is bigger than you. But just know that it's not going to bring you down like that. It should not bring you down like that. You should have some faith in yourself, believe in yourself, because you don't know how smart you are. A lot of the times people don't know how smart they are, and considering that we are students that are being bombarded by Cambridge, well, it's just remember you are a lot smarter than you think you are. Yeah.
Thank you, Shu. We will now be moving on to questions that were posted on the Future Top Questions thread. Please give me a moment. I will present my screen again.
So now, since we are done with our presentation right now, we are going to be opening chat up. So if you guys have any questions regarding IGCSE, anything of the points that we talked about, have any concerns and anything you want us to answer, you can ask them now.
Okay, so the first question, how do you satisfy the mark scheme for the sciences? So for technical questions that ask for calculations, it's usually easy. In the case of sciences, you have to give your answer correct to two or three significant figures, but it's recommended to do two, especially in physics. For questions that ask for points, for example, in biology, if there is a 6 mark question about a particular topic, you have to give 6 points or three and explain them if the question asks for that. Uh, but yeah, you have to give reasons that relate to the question as much as possible. And if the wording is different, that is totally fine. If the terminology that is required is there and is correct, you're good for full marks. Uh, Next question. How do you make a good study
Hold on, I'll
timetable?
take this
Uh,
question. So,
okay.
when you're planning to make a good study timetable, you need to take in consideration your own like lively activities. Because if you try to take a timetable from online or find one on TikTok and decide to follow it, it's probably not going to work for you because different people have different like their own lifestyles. So in a daily basis, maybe just notice what times you're usually free and what times your brain works best. Because during my study periods, I normally realized that I used to study better during the night times. So what I used to do is I used to laze around the whole day and just stay up till like 5 a.m. or something studying. And this might not be the best of things because it kind of ruins your sleep schedule in the process. But again, you need to find thing that works for you and you know that it's going to be a productive study session. You could always use Chat GPT for like these kind of things because it really helps out. You can just enter your daily activities into Chat GPT and also include the amount of hours you want to spend studying and allocate at least a few, like a minimum of at least 1 to 2 hours a day studying. That should be more than enough through the time.
Okay, so I'm going to be taking the next question. How do I not burn out and stay consistent with revising? With revising 10 IGCSEs. Excuse me. Um, firstly, it's really taking it bit by bit. Take all your subjects, when studying for them, take them bit by bit, and start. Make sure to start beforehand, and don't go. Don't leave it for last minute because that 10 IGCSEs is really heavy and it's probably actually like over the requirement. Actually, maths I'm pretty sure is 9, but anyway, moving on. You have burning out is you make sure. Yeah, what was I saying? Just don't take it all in one go. Don't go for every single subject in a day. Try and try scheduling it in a sort of way where you have time to study for every. You have time to study like at least 2 chapters for like 2 subjects in a day. But make sure it's not convoluted in throughout your schedule throughout the day. Try to separate it. Try to have a time where you're outside, like right after you study. Like 1 to 2 chapters for a certain subject. Try and take a break and taking a break. Walk outside, have a little snack. And I just want to say real quick that going on social media and using your phone and gaming or whatever it is, that is not a break. That does not count as a break because you're breaking that momentum that you just built throughout your study time, and that will literally distract you from studying again and might demotivate you even further. So don't make sure to turn off all your devices, or at least try to discipline yourself and have some self control whilst you study. Um, and yeah, don't be too hard on yourself. 10 IGCSEs is a lot. I'm so sorry.
Okay, so the question about how many subjects is best to take for IGCSEs, this is a question that really depends on you. The minimum like subject requirement, I believe for most places there's about 6 to 5 subjects. But if you want to be that overachieving student and you want to get a scholarship for A levels and stuff of that sort, doing 10 to 9 subjects is really like possible. Like if you really work hard for it, it's definitely possible. I did 9 subjects, and sure, it was hard getting there. But remember, you can like separate the seatings you do your exams in. So I did a few subjects in October, November, and then I did a few subjects in May, June. So really depends on you, but the minimum is about 6 to 5, and the maximum, if you take more than 11 subjects, it's really going to be nothing more than a headache for yourself. So I think that if you take about like 10 subjects, if you want to be an overachiever, that's fine, and at least 6 to 5 subjects is like the minimum.
Okay, next up, Grim Reaper's question. How should I rely on online resources? I keep on getting distracted whenever I try studying online. So for this, I would suggest getting application blockers or website blockers that cut out the stuff that you don't need when you're studying. When you're studying, the only thing you should do is read notes or do your past papers or whatever. On the device, you should try to limit online resources. Now, for choosing the best resources, I would really recommend Dnotes and Merja, the partners of this. And your notes as well are the best for you. As far as online resources are concerned, our servers also has a lot of really good resources, which also personally helped me out when I was doing my GCSEs. Next up, stars question. At the beginning of the IGCSE program, I was on top of class, but now you're lacking of and losing interest in studying. Any advice? So, the most one of the most important things that you have to do to keep up your motivation is to gamify your studies. Uh, don't take it as a labor or effort that you have to put in. Take it as something that will give you fun. So maybe use something like MCQ Mate that is a project on GitHub. I'll send the link later if you want. It You should actually also give me a sec. Uh, if you're if you are on top of class and you're losing interest, that's actually not a bad thing because it might be more a result of their effort than your lack of effort. And you're not comparing against them, you're comparing against the world. So your classmates in the global scale might not be such a great benchmark. So yeah, you should really be sure that you're actually doing what it needs to do the IGCSE. If you are, you're covered and you'll get the best marks. It's guaranteed.
So I'm really struggling with my biology, especially the part of gaining the information. How could I work on that? So what I could tell you is, since biology is really content heavy, it's quite similar to what I did, where I did biology as well. But it is really content heavy and is mainly and almost purely on memorization. However, if you struggle with going through your own notes at times and you find that it's not as stimulating the brain, I recommend trying to find certain videos that might help with that explains the topic to you, but make sure that you are also paying attention and that you're not averting your attention somewhere elsewhere. Don't go because you're probably the only downside to that is you're more prone to going back to your phone or going back to your device. And I've also emphasized before that you should try and avoid doing that. It's mainly trying to find that balance between both making both studying it and also just really um, uh, Also, just as Asha said, making it a bit more fun for you and a lot more engaging because while you can also try and while you can also try and go through notes, you can also find videos or have someone else explain it to you. So you have something. It's a lot more. Your study time is a lot more immersive than simply just sticking to your books and sticking to your notes as well. Now we are okay. We have one more question here, and then we are going to be heading to the chat, the live chat. So we'll be answering your questions there as well.
Yeah, so I'm gonna answer Moonlit 31's question. He's asking what YouTube channels or resources helped you right before your exams. So, as for YouTube channels, I would definitely recommend Science with Hazel, and there's also cognitive and like more summary channels that I can list down in the chat. These type of videos are they're not gonna definitely cover almost everything, but it is gonna be a quick review. So on the day of your exams, what you can try to do is I don't know if this works for you guys or if it's just me, but I like to cram right before my exams. So during like the days of my exam, we did this really bad idea of drinking coffee mixed with Red Bull and then just yeah, venting on our whiteboard with all the information that we had from the syllabus and using resources from the resource repository. There were some questions like last minute revision questions and then resources with like most frequently asked questions. So these kind of resources will definitely help you if you haven't had the time to go through a lot of papers right before your exam. Most of the resources are pinned in their respective channels. You should definitely check out the channel pins right before your exam because these documents that are in the channel pins are really helpful. So I recommend going through those first.
I agree. Pins are one of the greatest resources we have. There are a lot of mnemonics and other really small photos or resources that really help you cram the stuff or memorize the stuff right before your exam. Adding to that, one YouTube channel that I found really useful was IGCSE Online. It had quite a few videos for every IGCSE subject, at least most of them which I had. For example, all of IGCSE economics in 9 minutes. So yeah, that actually covered the whole syllabus in 9 minutes and made sure I hadn't missed anything. Okay, now that we're done with questions on the thread, we'll move on to live questions. Please give me a moment.
Okay. So yeah, we're gonna be beginning with the live chat questions now. I'm gonna begin with the first question, which is are there from Bella? Are there helpful habits or routines that we can start very early on? Now, it all begins. Your study habits all begin with discipline because a lot of people do rely on motivation, which is pretty unreliable because you won't always be motivated. However, if you have some sort of discipline and you try and you basically force yourself to study, um, uh, with of course with good ways to do that. The first step really is discipline and trying to tell yourself that you have to do this despite the fact that even if you don't want to. One of the biggest things that one of my teachers told me is if I don't want to do something specific, like if I don't want to study at a certain point, I have to study. Because um, because it also counters like the way like your subconscious as well, and really it's what kind of helpful habits here. Um, I guess it's really getting used to scheduling and planning beforehand, a week beforehand. Try um, try planning out your week ahead, your study schedule a week ahead, and try having a certain time for that as well. So at least whenever that time period comes in, you remember that you have to prepare for your you have to prepare for your you have to prepare your your study schedule. Sorry, um, and yeah. So mainly, TLDR, just learn discipline and um, make sure to plan your schedules beforehand.
Okay, next up, admin roles question: how to properly manage time as a student. So what I personally did was I had an MCQ session of 1.5 hours at night when I would do MCQs alone, except for what I did in the voice chat with the friends here. Uh, Also, I kept two 1 hour slots before that when I studied the subjects and the topics that I missed out marks on in the MCQ preparation or the study preparation of the last day, which helped me answer a lot. Also, it is really useful and really required to cut off all your distractions when, especially when you're right before the exams. Uh, yeah, that's how I personally manage time as a student. I hope you'll find it useful.
Alright, so I'll answer human beings question. They said that in the 2024 majoring session they have certain subjects and now it's vacations and the next year they're gonna give a few more subjects. How do you get back on track? So the first thing that you'll be done with after you finish one session is of course your grades. Your grades can either be your biggest like motivator or demotivator. If you're like someone who got really good grades in the first session, it could be leading to like overconfidence or something of that sort. But if you got really bad grades, then you're gonna be like completely driven to get good grades in your next session. So don't really depend on grades because it could be like a life changing experience. And also, make sure to not like rest too much in your vacations. You need to spend time studying every day, even though it's like vacations. And just be consistent with it and don't leave everything for the last minute.
Okay, next up, omelette question. Are Z notes updated for 2025 syllabus? Which note size would you all recommend? So I'm not totally sure for 2025, but I think the Z notes, the latest updates of Z notes on their website currently do support 2024 to 2026, if I'm correct. Yeah, please verify that. Which note size would we all recommend? This might be biased, but IGCSE the resources of this server have helped me a lot, and that's an understatement. Uh, in addition, notes from that I took myself and notes from other YouTube channels like IGCSE Online helped a lot. Next up, Rag says this question. I'm sorry if I didn't pronounce the name correctly. How do I keep all my subjects on track? I often study more one subject more than the other. So here, going back and referring again to the timetable, which is really important, you should plan out for the week on each day which subject you're gonna cover, so that you're completely sure you're not missing out on any subject.
Um, Alright, I'm just gonna okay since Veda's answering in chat, I shall answer one question here. Um, how many hours in a day is ideal for studying in order to maximize my time and effort? Now, this really depends on you, but in my opinion, I think at least probably 3 to 4 hours is enough. I think 4 hours is enough a day, because you don't wanna do too little, but at the same time you don't want to do too much and burn yourself out, which is what a lot of people do. And the whole thing with work smart not hard. You're trying to almost you don't have to maximize too much time, right? But you don't. At the same time, you want to get the most done, right? But you can do a lot. Honestly speaking, you can do a lot in 1 hour. You can have like a very you can have quality studying in an hour rather than just pointless revising for like 11 hours or something like that, something very well like that. So make sure not to burn yourself out. It really is it really is crucial that you have a balance with both your life itself and also your academics.
Okay, I'm just gonna answer exclamation marks question. Chelsea. Okay. When you find yourself, sorry, you find yourself easily absorbing information, but whenever you're faced with exam style questions, you easily find yourself being completely confused. So, answering exam style questions correctly is something that comes with a lot of practice. So, even if you're not able to do it first, don't stop trying, go for it. Uh, you might also find it helpful to look over the marking schemes with past paper questions as you do them, because marking schemes do tell you which points you need and which points you don't because they won't be there. Uh, One more really important resource for you would be the examiner's report, which tells you what students commonly miss out and what you might be commonly missing out. So yeah, that that's quite useful.
Someone asked, I used to be an academic baddie, but now I'm an academic victim. Any idea for this? Okay, so if you are now an academic victim, I think it's probably because there's some topics that you used to be really good at, and then after you moved on to the more further into the syllabus, you started like losing focus and also like you stopped understanding some things. So I think the best way to go about at this is to like go through those topics that you're not understanding by watching videos, asking friends to explain it for you, or maybe asking in the r/IGCSE channels and finding answers to your questions. If you don't understand something, don't think that you're magically gonna understand it later on. You have to go through it now, or you're just not gonna have time later on. And you also have to do past year paper questions for that topic specifically, and make sure to keep doing those questions until you're like fully prepared in that topic. And also, one more person asked, was it a lot of pressure to do 10 subjects, and how do you encounter it? So I did 9 subjects, and to be honest, it wasn't that much. Okay, it was actually a lot of pressure, but because I had my subjects divided, I did 3 only in my first session, and it wasn't that stressful. But it was kind of a bit of my fault as well because I didn't start preparing until like the last 3 or 4 months for my first session, and I started like cramming throughout the last few months. And I think that's one of the main reasons why I had a lot of pressure. So I would definitely not recommend anyone does that. It's really important to be consistent and like use your time wisely and don't leave it all for the end. And as for the seating, I did 6 subjects in. I feel like I was a bit much like well prepared for that because after my cramming session for those 3 subjects, I really knew that you had to be consistent. So I spent my time a bit better, and I felt like I was much more prepared for the 6 subjects I did in this May June. But if you are doing your 10 or 9 subjects all at once, I would definitely recommend that you divide your, like, keep a clear schedule basically and make sure to cover like all of your syllabus and also keep time in the end, maybe like 2 months for past year papers only, and then spend other time learning your syllabus and understanding topics, stuff like that.
Someone asked, or some people are asking that whether or not to study throughout your summer break. And you should. There isn't really much to that, since life is being something else that we're yapping too much. But however, I think you should study for your summer break. Find time to study. Don't. Well, you can of course rest, but try to find some time to study. In between. The times you do stuff, as well. Um, and yeah. Do we have any more questions? Uh, Literally the subjects that you think that you are least prepared for. I think you should study for most. Someone asked, which subjects do you think you should prepare for the most during the summer? Yeah, someone kind of already asked that actually. But um, thanks, Viper. Um, Absolutely not. Right, do we have any more questions? No, you don't want us to answer, or like I don't know. Do you want Viper to answer? I don't know. He's taking over this session now. I got 8 subjects, which would be the best way of building a study schedule. Um, right. Um, yeah. Who'd like to answer this one? Um, I'd say honestly. Alright, I kind of already explained this though. Alright, yeah, there you go. 5 pages left.
I think if you're clear about which subjects you feel like you're the weakest in and which subjects you're strong in, and you also know how many hours you want to allocate to studying in a day, you can just input all that information into ChatGPT or something of that sort, and ChatGPT gives you like a clear schedule of what to do and which subjects to study. And also, you can also ask for it to give you like a timeline of what to do, but be noted that ChatGPT only gives you a timetable for like up to a week or something like that. So you can't really depend on it for the whole month or something like that.
Next up, human beings question. How should you prepare for a subject if the syllabus receives some major change and you don't have enough past papers questions to attempt? Like the 2025 O-level physics syllabus. So I'm not sure about O-level particularly, but when it happens, for example, it did happen in IGCSE physics too. I'm talking about space physics. So for that, Cambridge had specially released a set of MCQs and theory questions that might come, that are the style of questions that might come in your exam, which was pretty useful. Also, you could look over the specimen papers with of years from 2025 and later.
Alright, do we have any other questions now? Or if we don't have any other questions, um, we may end this now. Bottle of water, there you go. Anyways, um, okay. What do you peeps do to take breaks? Okay, here you go. This is my jam. Right. Uh, Usually, taking breaks is having a snack. because like I need food, or I'm going outside, just like feeling the fresh breeze. You know what I mean? Um, also just resting for a bit, really, just having that sort of reset in my brain kind of thing. And yeah, well,
Oh, also, one more thing is that during your breaks, it's best not to do things like starting to watch some reels or like going on your phone
yeah, I
because
agree.
immediately as you start doing this, you're never going to get off your phone and you're never going to find that motive to study ever again. So keep that phone like a walking distance away, someplace you're not going to take it. And
Yeah.
yeah, as soon as you start, you're gonna start doom scrolling. So definitely don't keep your phone anywhere near you, and definitely don't use it during your break times.
Yeah, it's not helpful. It doesn't count as a break at all. Um, so make sure to keep it in another room or like throw it away or something like that. Um, right. If there aren't any other questions, okay, let's do more questions. If you've got any more. Ah, um, we are gonna be having two. How do you guys get into a? Oh, Vanch, would you like to answer this?
I don't mind. Let's pause on it. How do you guys get into a flow state right after a break for studies? So that happened to me recently. I have come from vacations and like for about a month. So what I've started doing is I started having MCQ sessions of 30 minutes for the subject for the topics that I've done. Uh, I'm talking about topicals from Market. So yeah, I set up a regular schedule for that, and that motivated me to study more to get my marks up, which aspiration didn't exist before doing the MCQ. So yeah, that helped a lot.
Or yeah, do we have one? Thanks, Viper. If you guys don't have any other questions, then um, we may be ending the session now. Mm, so yeah. Oh, never mind. We have another question. Oh, and another one.
I can answer a human beings question.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
What should I focus more on, the MCQ, the theory, or the ATP paper? So I think this is a very, very obvious question. You should definitely focus on that theory paper because it consists of a lot of questions that it's easy for you to get mistakes in. And I'm not sure if you've seen the MCQ or the ATP papers, but for subjects like biology and yeah, I think only bio and chem. The MCQ paper is like very, very easy. I think with like a few papers of practice, you can easily get above 30 in those papers if you're fully prepared for the theory paper. And you should always remember that the MCQ paper is like always the last in most timetables. So if the exam series is like May to June, it's most likely that your MCQ papers are going to be in June towards the ending of all the exams. And the ATP paper is more or less like common sense. You can just go through a few documents and you'll be fine with that paper, I think. So you should really put most of your efforts into that theory paper and really master it because it contains a lot of weightage, if I'm not mistaken. But at the same time, please don't forget to like not neglect the MCQ or the like ATP papers because only if you get like really high scoring grades in those, you can guarantee an A star for your grade.
Thank you, everyone. That's the last of the questions. We'll be finishing up now.
Alright. Thank you guys for tuning in to our talk for today. I hope that it was all our commentary and all our tips were quite insightful and it may help you for your IGCSEs that are really coming up. Um, because of any more questions, you can always ask us like at any time, or you can always ask in the IGCSE chat. Um, we'll always be around here. So appreciate you guys being here. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much for joining. Have a great evening, guys.